According to Navajo legend, a skinwalker is someone who is most likely a very holy person, such as a witch or a medicine man within their tribe, who has turned evil. In order to become a skinwalker, one has to commit the most evilest of deeds, such as murder. Kind of like selling your soul to the devil, and in return, you get supernatural powers. And a skinwalker has the ability to turn into any animal, or even an improved, more terrifying version of that animal. And most Navajo believe without a shadow of a doubt that these evil, supernatural human beings do exist, and they don't really like to talk to people that they don't trust about them, because they fear what might happen to them if they do. So most of the information that we do get usually comes from young adults, teens, or children, because once they get older, they start to believe, and they stop talking about them. A very interesting thing about skinwalkers is most of the sightings that we know about come from non-Navajo, and they're always on or really close to Navajo reservations. Because like I said before, only a Navajo can become a skinwalker. Well, at least according to what I've read about them so far. One night a woman was driving across Navajo territory, going about 60 miles per hour, when she saw a man running right next to her car. And this person tapped on her car window, smiled at her, then ran off at amazing speeds in front of her. Then it just disappeared. And of course this woman was terrified. She could not believe what she had just witnessed. So she wanted some answers, and after a lot of research, she came to the conclusion that she must have come face to face with a skinwalker. Then not too far away from this location, a man was driving near Sedona when he experienced pretty much the exact same thing. While he was driving, he saw something that looked exactly like a human being running right past his truck, and he claims that he must have been going at least 65 miles per hour. And there have been many more sightings just like this, especially in Arizona. One of the most famous locations for these type of sightings is a place known as Winslow and Window Rock. But I wouldn't recommend going there looking for skinwalkers, because you never know what you might find and encounter. Another case comes from a young girl who was taking a trip to see her grandmother. And her grandmother was full-blooded Native American. And one day this young girl was playing outside when she heard her grandmother screaming at her little brother to come here and to get away from it. So this young girl thought that her little brother must have found a scorpion or maybe even a rattlesnake. But to her surprise, it was a very unnatural, huge-looking dog. And it just sat there staring at her grandmother. Then after a minute or so, it finally took off. And the grandmother said that the skinwalker had finally found me. And she moved away right after this encounter. Now this young girl couldn't remember if the dog took off at amazing speeds, because that is what skinwalkers are kind of famous for. But she does remember that it was huge and its eyes were a very creepy yellowish color. And she also knew that her grandmother truly believed that it was a skinwalker. Another sighting happened to a man who went to go visit his family on Christmas, and his family owned a nice little farm near Navajo land. And one night he heard what he thought was some wild dogs just going crazy outside. So he put on his boots, grabbed his shotgun, and went outside hoping to kill, or at least scare them away from the family farm. And then he saw two rather large dogs fighting with each other in a nearby field. And when he pumped his shotgun, the dogs looked at him. Then they got up on their hind legs and ran away so fast that he could not believe what he was seeing. Now his family had always told him about skinwalkers, but he never believed them, until now. Another very similar encounter happened when a woman in New Mexico saw a very odd-looking creature outside her house one night. At first she thought that it was a man, but this thing, whatever it was, had very odd posture, and it was standing perfectly still. So this woman was wondering if her eyes were playing tricks on her as it was nighttime. But once she got closer, she realized that this thing had the head and body of a wolf, but it was standing on its hind legs and it was rather muscular. Then this woman screamed her head off, and this creature took off at very fast speeds on his back legs back into the darkness. And at this time, this woman was convinced that she had just seen a werewolf. But her grandmother, who was Navajo, told her that this was not a werewolf. This was a skinwalker, making me wonder if werewolves and skinwalkers are the same thing. Another very creepy encounter comes from a high school student who was on a bus with his teammates, heading back from a high school basketball game one night. It was very late and a full moon was out, and they had to go through Navajo territory in order to get back home. And right after they reached the reservation, the bus driver sped up to about 85 miles per hour, probably as fast as this bus could go. And this high school student thought that this was very odd, as he had never seen this bus driver break the law before, as he was normally a very careful driver. Then this high school student saw something in the desert that appeared to be moving rather fast and heading right towards the bus. And as the student was just staring in awe, wondering what the heck was this thing, he saw it. And it looked like a human, but but it also had the face of an animal with glowing eyes. And this creature, was running right next to the bus, and it made eye contact with him. Then it smiled, and he could now see this monster's teeth, and they were not the teeth of a human, but more like the teeth of a dog. Then it got down on all fours and just disappeared from sight. Now this student was of course freaking out, and he looked around the bus to see if anyone else had seen it. But all the other students were sleeping, as it was rather late. Then the bus driver turned around and made eye contact with him, and they both knew at that moment that they both had seen this creature. And that is probably why the bus driver was going so fast, as he must have saw it approaching the bus. Now there are so many encounters with skinwalkers that it is rather disturbing, and it seems that most of these sightings are all extremely similar. But most of the time it seems to be a dog, or a wolf, or some sort of hybrid, such as a wolf man or a dog man with supernatural abilities. And one thing that I did learn while researching this video is that in order for a skinwalker to turn into an animal, he or she has to kill that animal, then absorb its power. Which is very interesting, and it makes me wonder, if one of these skinwalkers kills a bear, could it turn into something like a Bigfoot? As most of the time these skinwalkers are seen walking on his hind legs in the form of the animal that it's killed. And if it killed a bear, I'm sure that it would look very similar to a Bigfoot while it was in human bear form. But of course, a lot of Bigfoot sightings are seen far away from Navajo territory. But hey, maybe that's why Bigfoot never gets caught. Now I'm not saying that I believe in this legend, but as a paranormal junkie, I never try to rule anything out. And if I'm ever in or driving through Navajo land, I will be sure to be on full alert.